Hi, I'm Jens Fudge, and I've been working with Delphi since it first came out back in 1995. In fact, the first time I saw Delphi in action was a presentation done by Kerry Jensen, who you saw last week on the Skill Sprint. I now work as a trainer and a consultant in building systems as well as apps for mobile devices, and I'm very happy to be using Delphi. Although I'm going to use Object Pascal, the technology I'm going to go through also works with C++. I'm going to build a desktop application using FireMonkey in RAD Studio, but you should easily be able to transfer the principles and the technologies to app method, and even if it's a desktop application I'm building, this should also work on Android and iOS. So I guess this is all of the above. The skill sprints work in this way here. It's 20 minutes and it's just down to the point, and there's only one topic. And if you haven't downloaded the trial version yet of the latest version of either App Method or RAD Studio, please go ahead. The address is on the lower left corner. Please go ahead and download it now. So Local SQL is a technology that lets you query some datasets with standard SQL, as opposed to querying the database tables with standard SQL. This is actually querying in memory, so to speak. It's a very cool idea, and it's a very cool way to be querying and joining database tables from different datasets. So if you have, for instance, a data table from a database on the internet, and you have some XML files that you open with, let's say, a client dataset, then you can just query them and you can get the results directly. To do this, you use the SQLite driver, and it supports most of the SQL dialect from SQLite. You cannot, however, use data definition languages, so you can't create tables, you can't drop tables, which I guess is probably a good idea anyway. So let's go ahead and see a demonstration on this. Right, so to do the demo, I'm going to fire my favorite development tool. Guess what that is? Oh, here we go, it's RAD Studio. In this RAD Studio, I've created a new FireMonkey desktop application. And in order to get anything from any database, I need to add a few components that I'm sure you're aware of. I need to add a TFD physical link for whichever database I want. In this case, I want an inner base. So I've got that one, and I want to get the GUI weight cursor. These are the components that I often forget, but they have to be there. The GUI weight cursor, and I want a FD connection. And the connection, I don't want a login prompt, I'm going to remove that straight away. On the driver on that, I want the inner base driver, and I want to use a database that is known as DB Demos, which is in Documents, Embarcadero Studio 14 or 15, which version you have, samples data. The user for this database is sysdba, which is a well-known user. It has a password, which is master key, and we say OK to that. Let's see if we can connect it. We can connect it indeed. Alright, so let's have a query to query something. TFD query. With the FD query, it also already connects to the FD connection. Let me just rename that one to FD con interbase, and I'm going to have the FD query renamed to query customer. Double click on that, get the SQL editor up, select all from customer. That certainly works. Okay, so now we've got the query hooking up to the database, selecting all from customer. The next thing we want to add in this super duper application is a T client dataset. And I want to use a T client dataset because this has got nothing to do whatsoever with FireDAC. So I'm going to prove to you that this local SQL works with any dataset descendants. So I'm going to rename that to CDS orders. I'm going to go and pick up the file, and the file that I want is the orders XML from the same library as the database was located. Let's see if I can activate that, and I can, so I'm pretty sure I've got some data in there. Okay, now I have the query for the customer. I have the file for the orders. So let's say that, for instance, you have your company, you have the customer table in a database that you have access to, but every night or every morning or whatever, someone ships you a file of orders in an XML format. Obviously, an XML format the client dataset in this case is able to read. This could also be data coming from anything else, like a comma separated values file, or it could be another database located somewhere on the internet. It could be an Oracle database, could be MySQL database, could be MS SQL database. It doesn't really matter. The thing is that this technique and this method works for all descendants of T dataset. So let's actually see if the thing is showing, if the data is showing here. So I need a grid. I want a string grid. I'll just make that a bit bigger, and for the string grid to show anything, I'll do the bind visually thing, and I'll do the customer to the string grid, and as soon as I on the query customer even design time set true on the, oh, that was not cached updates, I want active true, I get data there. So that's pretty good. We're in good shape. Just close that again. Now I want to query from both the query customer and the client dataset order, and I want to stick that in the grid. So in order to choose which customer I want an edit box. Edit box. T-edit. There we go. I'll stick that up there. And I also want a button. So I'm going to have a T button. Alright, just move that up a bit. There we go. Now what I wanted to combine is the two data sets. So I have to use the SQL Lite driver to do that. So I want a physical SQL Lite driver, and I want another connection, TFD connection, and this connection has to be a SQL Lite connection. I want a TFD full SQL component, and this is actually the brains of this technique. I want to connect it to the SQL Lite connection, which I'm going to rename fdcon SQL Lite. and I am going to add some datasets to it on the datasets property. I actually have two that I want to add. The first one is the query customer. I'm going to name it local customer, because if I name it, I can use this name in my SQL. And the second one is obviously the client dataset, which I'm going to name local order. I now need to add yet another query. Now I'm going to hook up to the SQL Lite connection. I'm going to rename it to query customer orders. Open up the SQL editor, and I'm going to punch in the SQL. And I'm going to type really fast to punch in the SQL here. And there you go. I'm selecting from local customer and local orders. This is a join on those two. And I've got a where clause where the local customer's customer number is a parameter, or the parameter is null. I'm going to order that by company and order number. By the way, this here is a little trick that I learned from a good friend of mine. If you do actually pass a customer number here, it will query only for that customer number. If you do not pass any value in this parameter, then it will query it with everyone, which is pretty good. I'm going to say OK to that, because I have to make sure now that my local SQL is actually open. So I'm going to open that, and I have to make sure the client dataset is open, and I have to make sure my query customer is open. I don't actually want to see the data in there anymore, so I'm going to remove that. Link. There we go. I'm going to open up this one again just to show you, and I have to put the data type as an integer. I can now execute it, and as you see, this gives me all the scuba gear shops. If I do actually punch in a value 1221, for example, and execute it, I only get the Kauai dive shop. So that works pretty good for me. So I have the query here, and I'm just going to hook up the data to the string grid from there you go. And on the button, I'm going to populate the query. So if edit one.text is different from the empty string, then I want the query customer order dot param by name custno dot as string as integer, that is as integer, gets edit one dot text dot to integer. In case the query is already open, I want to query custom order dot close and then open it. Query custom order dot open. Alright, let's see if this will work. Hit the play button. And we get the format. if I just press the button, I get, as you see, all the clubs here, all the shops, and I get their order numbers. If I enter a number, a customer number, and press the button, it opens only up for them. So this actually concludes the demo where I've shown how to use local SQL to query two datasets, where the datasets are populated with data from different sources. One is from the Interbase database, and the other one here is from an XML file. And as I said, this could work with anything, even Microsoft Access database. So, as I said, this concludes the demo. And let's move on in the slides. So, summary. I've built an application. It combines data from the different T datasets descendants. They must be descendants of T dataset. And it's actually very cool that you can join data using SQL in this manner. This is much cleaner for me than having to run through one dataset first and then trying to further it in code. So point and click application with hardly any code in it. The code is in Object Pascal, as I said, but it can easily be rewritten to be in C++ instead, and this should work in both C++ Builder and in Delphi, and it should work in VCL, it should work in FireMonkey, it should work in App Method, it should work in Rad Studio, it should work on Android, iOS, Mac OS X, and of course Windows. So, local SQL resources. The code that I've built is uploaded on my website, www.archersoft.dk/download/localsql.zip. And if you want to read more about local SQL, you can always go to the .wiki page, which is on the screen here, and there are also lots of great blog posts on blogs.embarcadero.com, even though I know that Embarcadero are actually moving the blogs currently, but hey, they'll probably link to the right ones. Next time on the skill sprint, there's going to be something about multi-device designer, which is a new feature in Delphi XE7, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this. This is for really enabling using the same code, even designing the same form, and using it on the different devices that are out there, whether it's iOS, Android, or iPad size or mobile phone size, it doesn't matter. And it's all on September the 11th, so please join us there too. This concludes this skill sprint, and we now have time for some questions and answers. Thank you very much for joining, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got, if I can.
Well, great, Jens. That was a lot of fun. Seeing how to get in here to local SQL here.
You're welcome. Hope you enjoyed it.
Okay. I'm trying to find some questions here. So it has a question here. It says the comment here about your cust number is null parameter trick. It's really awesome. Yet again, after programming every day with Delphi since '95, I learned something from a skill sprint. Good job.
I just learned it like 6 months ago myself. And I've been programming since 1995 with Delphi 2. So yes, you do learn something once in a while.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. If there's any other questions, go ahead and put them in here now. Here's the one that says, is local SQL possible with the professional edition?
I'm not absolutely sure, but I really think so, because it just needs, it is local, and as far as I understand, the professional version does allow anything on local databases, and this is local, so if you've got the data in the data set, it should be there.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. In your case, using the T-client data set.
With other data set it would work fine. Yeah.
As long as you're dealing with a desktop database is the
Exactly.
differentiator.
Yeah.
What is needed to be used as a data source? Do databases like BXDB work with it?
Well, if you can get the data into a T-dataset descendant, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's a lot of other ones. Okay, here we go. Local SQL works on Mac OS 10.
Yes, it does. It works on Mac OS 10. It works on Android, iOS, Windows. So yeah, it works everywhere.
Where on a mobile device, if you were doing on a mobile, where would you deploy the data files?
I would deploy the data files in the documents folder that you can get to with the tpath get documents folder, I think it is.
Okay.
Jim, did you
Yeah.
just return from Australia or something? You sound very tired.
I'm just getting all caught back up on local time. Sorry about that. Yeah, so yeah, you put it in the documents folder, and then you would
Yes.
use the tpath get document path
Yes.
to get that location in code.
Yeah.
If you check out, I think the doc wiki has a couple articles that explain about that. So here's a comment about live bindings versus setting it all up in code. I don't know if you want to comment about which you prefer or why you prefer it, which is faster, etc.
Well, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing simple stuff like this, I'll just use live bindings. If I'm doing more complex stuff, I rather like to have the connection set up myself in code because I wouldn't necessarily use either a data-aware thing like in the VCL style or a live bindings. I would probably do something with some objects with like an ORM, object relational management stuff. So you can use either.
Yeah, I that's what I found. I was a little slow to pick up live bindings as well, but I found there are some situations where live bindings actually performs faster than doing it in code, and vice versa. So it's nice to have the choice. It's nice to be able to
Especially
choose which
on
one works.
especially on mobile devices, it does pick up faster than doing it yourself.
Yeah.
That's my experience anyway. There could be situations where it doesn't.
It's one of those things you really have to pick the best situation for your situation.
Yes.
Okay, so your code is available on archersoft.dk/download/local SQL.
Yes, it is.
Screen still? Okay.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat window as well, and I think Patrick was saying that his boss doesn't like him using live bindings, and I said you can use code. TMS software has Aurelius, which is an object relational mapping tool. You can check that out.
Yep.
If you like the TMS software and you live around this place here in Denmark, I have organized along with Bruno Fierens from TMS a complete TMS day here in Denmark if you're interested. So I'll just put up the link here.
Oh.
There you go. Where Bruno is coming to Denmark, and we're going to spend an entire day going through the components with enough time for questions.
Excellent. I'm a big fan of the stuff Bruno does. I always love to see all the great new components he has put together.
Yes.
Okay, if there's any other questions related to the Ian's presentation on local SQL, go ahead and put them in here. If you put one in and I haven't addressed it, go ahead and put it in again because I may have missed it. Of course, here's a question about the XE7 upgrades. You can always find the latest upgrades if you go to rad offers, embarcadero.com/rad offer, and that will typically list whatever the current upgrade or promotional purchase specials are. That's where I go whenever I know what's currently going on. So yeah, Jens, you got to do your presentation with XC6 right before XC7 came out, so it's kind of in
Yes.
the awkward period here.
Yeah. I was doing it in XC6 because XC7 hadn't come out. Well, I was linking to XC7 wiki pages and all that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But it works in XC6 as well as in XC7. It's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. All right. And it works in VCL or FireMonkey, is that right?
Yeah, it does. It works on all the technologies that you provide, actually. VCL, FireMonkey, App Method, Delphi, from Pro to Architect. It works on Macintosh, iOS, Android, Windows. It just works. Period. Nothing more to say.
Now, your example, you used Object Pascal Delphi,
Yes.
but this would also work with C++, is that correct?
Yeah, it would also work with C++ because actually the local SQL that I was doing didn't require one single line of code. The only lines of code I built was just in the opening the query and filtering from the customer number. Everything else was just point and click programming. So yeah, C++, Pascal. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you so much, Jens, for your skill sprint and your time putting this together for us.
You're very welcome. Do it anytime.
Thanks. All right. And then, as you mentioned, I guess in 2 days, we're doing the new multi-device designer, which is, I'll be presenting that one. So I'm excited for that one, too.
Me too, yeah.
Oh, let's see. A couple more comments coming in here. Oh, a lot of people just saying very useful. Thank you. Cool topic. Great. So, yeah, a lot of people appreciate your presentation. Thank you. Here's a question from Brian. He says, thanks for the good demo. What kind of performance limits do you find? For example, how large a data set in row numbers is practical and how many joins?
I haven't stumbled into any limits on how many joins or how many rows. According to Dimitri, who built the stuff, it should be very good and very performant. So I guess you'll just have to try and error. I don't know. I haven't run into anything.
Is it possible to have editable data, or would you need to code pushing data back into the source?
It is possible to have editable data. Obviously, you have to be very, very careful when you have editable data on joins. But if you do inserts and deletes and whatnot, Dimitri has made the FireDAC technology with local SQL, so it will call the appropriate dataset dot delete or dataset dot insert or dataset dot post and so on, and it even works with cached updates and what you have, so transactions and everything. So yeah, it's very good technology, this, but as always, be aware when you do use joins when you update multiple tables at one time.
So I think this is a fabulous technology. There's so many times in the past where I've, like you mentioned, had to iterate through records between different datasets to try and do stuff. And I was just pulling my hair. I was like, if I could just write some SQL locally, it would make everything work.
Yeah, and it does work, and it's brilliant. It really is brilliant. It makes you able to join tables from all over the place, and well, just seamlessly just writing SQL to it.
Yeah, especially when you combine it with like the MIM dataset, and you can just the FDMIM dataset, you could throw whatever you wanted to in a MIM dataset and join it to a database pulling from Interbase or Oracle or whatever, and
yeah, you could even if you wanted to, you could even like semi-persist your data from this local SQL, because you could just insert that into a FDMIM table, and you can even persist that onto the file.
So let's see here. The question is this in XE5 or just XE6 onwards?
Pass.
I believe it's.
I think it's in XE5, but there are some modifications on XE6, making it a little bit better.
Yeah, there was definitely some fixes in XE6.
Yes, yeah. I believe actually this was even in XE4 when the FD were called AD. I'm pretty sure that the local SQL also worked with AnyDAC before Embarcadero acquired it.
Yeah, I was just thinking actually you could use local SQL with the REST components, right? You can point it at a REST data source. use the dataset adapter, put it into a data admin table, and then run SQL against a REST data source.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. If you can get the data in the dataset descendant, it works.
Yep, dataset descendant. So it works in, doesn't have to be, it works with Pro as well as Enterprise. Since you
It works with Pro as well as Enterprise. Obviously, you won't be able to on a Pro edition to get the data from a remote data database or anything like that. But as long as you've got the data in your own dataset descendant, yeah, go ahead. It works.
Okay, well, very cool. Thank you again, Jens, for your time. The download link is in the chat log there for everybody who wants to grab your example file and go through that.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
on the screen as well. Fabulous. Thanks again. And I know you're joining us in the middle of the night over there in Denmark.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the morning here for me. So.
But anyway, take care, everybody. Thursday, Jim's going to do multi-device designer on the skill sprints.
Yes.